Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is the importance of staging. Don't overlook the impact of hiring a staging company to transform your completed project before listing it for sale. Staging goes beyond aesthetics. It creates an emotional connection for buyers by transforming an empty or lifeless space into a welcoming home. Potential buyers need to envision themselves in the property. Staging can also highlight key features and showcase the property's potential. It presents a well-maintained, professional image online and in print, helping your property stand out in this competitive market. Staging can even mask minor flaws and lead to quicker sales, potentially getting a higher selling price. So, as you are wrapping up your completed flip, consider hiring a professional stager to optimize the impact and appeal to your target audience. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us my new friend, Ken Gee. Ken is the founder and managing partner of KRI Partners and the KRI Group of Companies. He has more than 24 years of significant real estate, banking, private equity transaction, and principal investing experience. Throughout his career, he has been involved in transactions valued at more than $2 billion, much of which has included the acquisition, management, and financing of various multifamily real estate projects. I personally like that KRI Properties has a large focus on value-add multifamily, which I would like to dive into myself. So let's get this party started. Welcome to the show, Ken Gee.
Thanks so much, Jen. Looking forward to it.
Not to be confused with Kenny G. By the way, do you like Kenny G?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
You know, I remember back in the late...
He named himself after me, by the way. We'll keep going. Go on.
I remember back in the late 90s, or mid 90s, whatever, he was voted in People magazine to be the best jazz musician. But then jazz musician magazines were like, the worst jazz musician is Kenny G. So it was just...
Oh boy, we'll go with the best. Let's stick with the best.
All right, I digress. So welcome to the show. You are an accountant at heart. I was telling you before we started, I married an accountant on purpose because I can't stand crunching numbers and doing all that stuff. But anyway, tell us about your background. How did you get involved in especially multifamily?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I grew up, I'll be quick. I grew up in Toledo, Ohio.
Holy Toledo.
Pardon me?
Holy Toledo.
Holy Toledo with Max Klinger and all the guys. Tony Pacos, if that's dating myself. But I digress. So I went to the University of Toledo, got my undergrad in finance, came to Cleveland, and pursued a master's degree at Case Western Reserve. And at that time, while I was pursuing it, I was a commercial lender. So I spent 5 years as a commercial lender. And then after I graduated with my master's, I said, you know what? I want to be a CPA. So I went to work for Deloitte for 7 years on the tax side. And did a lot of fun stuff, M&A work. But the problem was, here's where the transition started. My kids were my son was born, my daughter was just born. And I don't know, well, accountants, we work really, 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 really hard. And you really don't have much control over your life. And I found myself at 3 a.m., I would do my daughter's middle of the night feeding. And I found myself, I love that time. It was just her and me and everybody else is asleep. And that's cool, right? If you're a father, there's nothing like that father-daughter bond. But I started to think after a while, wait a minute, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. And this is my quality time with my daughter.
Wow.
that is not the picture I want to play out for the rest of my life. I'm thinking, man, I want to get to their basketball games and their football games, and whatever they decide to do, I want to be a part of it. I don't want to be that dad that, oh yeah, sorry, I missed your game again because I was working, right? And so, I thought I was really frustrated because I thought I did everything right? I got an undergrad, I got a graduate degree, I'm now a CPA. I'm like, Ken, you should be set. Wrong. All of a sudden, I found myself kind of scared at that time because I had two very young children, and I didn't want this family to go on and kind of me just be the person in the background, just providing some means to do it. So I said, I got to fix this. So I went out, started to figure out the real estate business. Back then, there were no podcasts like this to figure this out. There was a guy named Carlton Sheets, and maybe some of your listeners will know who that is, probably not. But he did single family homes, but he sort of got me started. Over a 3-year period, I bought 3 properties, just 25, 28, 22 units, something like that. 3 years later, I sold those properties for $500,000.
Wow.
Profit.
Ooh.
So I thought, whoa. I said, stop the clock, right? Wait a minute. This is cool. I just made more money on the side than I had made up to that point working for Deloitte, doing all these super technical things and working like a dog. I said, wait a minute. So before I thought, all right, I had this plan, right, at 3:00 in the morning. All right, let's go figure out real estate. I thought it would work. 3 years later, I'm like, this thing does work. Now it's up to me to continue to make that happen. So I did. And we just kept going, learning more, just doing, it was always been value add deals. I will tell you that 25, 26 years later, I did put my kids through school with no debt. I almost never missed a basketball game, a baseball game, none of that stuff. I really got to be part of their lives. That made me really, really happy. And now, kind of fast forward, I'm kind of on a mission now to help other people. So we now not only teach people how to do this stuff, but we have a private equity real estate firm. And what our firm does is we put our own money next to investor money. We go out and we find value add deals, and we help them reach the same goals that I was trying to reach 25 years ago. So that's kind of the long-winded version of my story, but it was really a game changer for me. So if your listeners are looking at making that jump, man, you got to do it.
Ken, what a great background story. And whoo, $500K in profit.
3 years. Yeah, it was cool, man.
I'm excited for those deals. So let's start very basic here. What exactly is a value add multifamily property?
Yeah. So when you think about, most people, when you think about how to make money in business, if you listen to Warren Buffett or Mark Cuban or anybody that's important in business, they will tell you that you make money in the world by adding value to people's lives somehow. And in the real estate world, I didn't understand that in the very beginning. I will tell you, I bought it. Somebody told me I would do okay with this property, and I didn't really get it. And I met this lady named Karen. I won't say her last name. She said to me, I had just bought this first property. Every penny I had went into that deal, right? And I said, I started to get the first few applications I got after I bought it were not good. They were poor applicants. They had terrible credit. They didn't make much money. I was like, oh no, this is not cool. So I don't remember why I met with Karen, but Karen said, Ken, this is happening because you've got to make these properties nice. You got to build it and they will come. I said, Karen, what do you mean? She goes, well, you got to spend like $5,000 in this unit. I mean, you got to put in a new kitchen. You got to make it look nice. I said, well, it doesn't look bad. She goes, but the kitchen's 30 years old. Like, come on, Ken. I said, Karen, I just spent every penny I had. Are you out of your mind? Where am I going to get $5,000? She says, I don't know, but I'm just telling you, it's going to change everything for you. So I said, all right. So I did what every person should do or should not do. I put all the money on my credit card. I did renovate that unit, and my rents went from $415 to $599. The first application I got on that $599 unit was an amazing app. It was a grad student from Case Western Reserve. I'm like, oh my God, this woman just changed my life, because I was freaking out. I couldn't figure out how I was going to make this work. She showed me how to add the value. And if you know, our business is all about moving cash flow, right? $415 to $599. That's a $185 increase for $5,000. It was amazing. And so that's actually how I got into the value add space. And every deal we do now is value add because it just makes sense.
I love that. And I'm personally in a situation right now where we're renovating a 12 unit up in Southern Virginia, and rents are very low. And you can tell by what they pay, it's the quality of renter that's in there.
Yes.
And we have since added about $600 to $7,500 towards each unit. We had 6 vacant units when we went in there, and exactly what you're saying. And it started like, trying to find those renters, but we just got some great ones coming in. And it's also important, I think, to mention the property management company as well. Do you work directly with property management companies, or do you manage yourself?
Yeah, we manage our own. So in the beginning, so I bought 28 units for my first deal because, don't laugh at what I'm about to tell you, but I looked at single families, I looked at 1-4s, and I'm like, man, I don't know how to fix anything. A lot of those people were doing a lot of this work themselves. I said that doesn't work for me. Plus, I'm already working 80 hours a week. I mean, how much more am I going to work? That's going to not help me. So I looked at 100 units. That's too big. I can't figure out how to do that. I'm just starting out. 28 units was big enough where I could have a part-time lady live on site, and she could help me do these things and coordinate these things. Now, she didn't renovate the units, right? But I had more income to work with so that I could pay other people to do what needed to be done. In my business, in my world, in my brain, that was, hey, I can treat this now like a business. I don't have to go there and fix things, right? Because I'm the CPA, and you don't want a CPA fixing your leaky toilet. I mean, you just don't want that. So that is how and why I bought what I did, and that's how we have continued to evolve this business over time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And yes, that's hitting home right now. So it's starting to get over that big, large hump. So it's nice to, when I first was researching about you and wanted to get you on the show, I thought you were so far up here, but the stories that you're telling is where everyone starts, and you got to work your way up. And I love that.
It is.
So thank you for sharing that. And that made me feel so much better. We're so much closer now, Kenny G. All right. So I want to know the best ways to underwrite the property so you're buying it properly. So what do I need to be looking for when I'm purchasing a multifamily unit?
Yeah. So, wow, that's a loaded question. We can go on for days on that. But so, having a numbers background, this business is all about numbers. One of the things probably the thing that attracted me to multifamily is that it's unlike single families, right? What you sell a single family home for is going to be largely dependent on your ability to grab someone's emotion and what the sales comps in the area are selling for, right?
Correct.
So it doesn't matter really how much rent that can command. I felt like in that smaller world, I would lose control over the ability to make it more valuable. Now, in my business, in the multifamily business, I knew that if I could move rents, if I can generate more cash flow, that business, our business is valued on the property's ability to generate more cash flow. So I'm like, wait a minute, if I can find a deal where I can move rents $200, well, on a 20 unit deal, what is that? 20 times 200, that's $4,000 a month. That's $48,000 a year. Well, if I get an asset that makes 50 grand more a year, there's a good chance someone's going to pay me more for it, right? So now we had this relationship between the asset's ability to generate income and its value. And I like that because now I can actually plan. I don't have to hope and pray I grab someone emotionally or stuff like that. I mean, we do that with our renters. So now that's the important part of underwriting. So now when you're underwriting, you've got to understand, where's the property operating now, right? What did the seller do with it? That's fine. What is it going to look like the day you take it over? Because that's how the bank is going to underwrite it, right? They're going to want to know that you can make your loan payment, and you're going to want to know that you have some money left over for your investors, right? Or for yourself, right? You're not doing this for free. So you've got to go through the income that's in place right now as it sits, the expenses, how they're going to look like when you run it. And then after that, you're going to project out, okay, if I add $100 a month in new rents or $200 a month in new rents, the beauty of this business is just because let's say you're living there and I raised your rent $100, do I have any real new expenses associated with that? No. $100 falls all the way to the bottom line. And that means I can really impact value by raising rents and projecting out my expenses. So that's the process. Number one, spread the seller's numbers and understand what's been going on, figure out what it looks like today so that you can know that you can make your loan payment and have some money left over. And then what's it going to look like probably 5 years out so that you can project what you're going to sell it for. Because now then you can figure out, ooh, man, that's a lot of money, right? And you can make good decisions about what you do, what you don't do, and so on and so forth. So that's the right way to underwrite a deal. You can't say insure, but you can increase the certainty significantly of what will happen in the future, right? Based on what you know. And I'm a firm believer in really diving into the details and understanding, look, if you're going to buy a business, don't you want to understand everything about that business? Apartments are no different.
Absolutely.
No different at all. So that's kind of my answer to that question. I could go on, but I think that'll get you somewhat started.
Well, just for example, I was looking at a mobile home park, which I'm glad I didn't purchase. Sorry, mobile home people, but it was down in Fayetteville. And when we were communicating with the seller, because they had wells and septics, another reason why I'm grateful I didn't buy it. But I said, well, when were they last repaired? When were they installed? And this guy didn't know any of that. So how do you take information? Because that's where I am currently. I'm buying from mom and pop type parties that their books are willy-nilly and all over the place. Yes, they can provide me with the T12 and the rent rolls, but beyond that, what other things should I be looking for to help underwrite the project?
Yeah. So one of the things that we teach people is you're gonna take that 212 and you're just gonna put it. We ask you to put it on a standard P&L, right? Something that's gonna look the same every single time you underwrite a new deal.
Explain what a T12 is and what a P&L is real quick.
Yeah. So a T12 is a trailing 12-month statement. Now you said, a lot of these smaller properties, they're less sophisticated in terms of their bookkeeping.
That's so true. Polite, Ken. Less sophisticated.
Well, it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. And there's nothing wrong. It serves their purpose, right? But it doesn't serve your purpose, right? Because you got to figure out what's going on at this property. So that's what the trailing 12-month is. The bank's going to ask you for that. Hopefully you'll be able to get it. All it does is takes the last 12 months and lays it out right in different columns right next to each other. Income, expenses, income, expenses, income, expenses every month. So you can see, when you do that, you can see trends. You can see income going up or down. You can see expenses going up. You can learn a lot about the operations of your property. So that's what a T12 is, a P&L. And I'm sorry I used that word. It's a profit and loss statement. All it is income minus expenses. And so did you make a profit or did you incur a loss? That's all it is. That's all I mean when I say P&L. So what you have to do is take what the seller has given you. So the way we teach you to underwrite in our courses is you're going to look at the seller's rent roll today. What is it at today? Like add up all the rents, right? And with these smaller properties, you might have to add these numbers by hand because they might have messed up their Excel spreadsheet. So add them up, make sure you know exactly what the income is. And is there any other income at this property? Usually with smaller properties, there's not. And then you have to say, okay, well, you're not always going to be 100% full, right? You're going to have some vacancy. Well, how do you figure that out? You're going to look at the market. Most of the time you can use 5 to 10%. These smaller, really small properties, you probably need to use 10%. And then that's your income, right? That's your income today if everybody paid their rent. And then if you should also have some allowance that somebody's probably not going to pay their rent, right? So, if your rent's $10,000 a month, you might have somebody that still owes you $500 at the end of the month. Well, that doesn't mean you got 10 grand, you got 9,500.
Right.
So you want to that's how you build out the income side. And then you're going to go through the expenses and you're just going to figure out, wait a minute, am I going to advertising? What am I going to do for advertising? Do I need to advertise? Is there free ways for me to fill this building without advertising? So you have to make a decision about how you're going to run it and put a number in there that makes sense. There's free ways to do it. Maybe the number is 0 if it's a really small property. If you're going to use apartments.com, maybe that number is $1,000 a month, right? If you're talking about much larger properties. So you got to figure out each, and you're going to go through the P&L, profit and loss statement, and just think about what expenses you're going to have. And in our course, we give you that spreadsheet so that you don't forget any of these lines, right? You might have pest control, you might have landscaping, you might have trash expense, right? You don't want to forget one because it's really easy to forget, especially when you have sellers' numbers that aren't quite as sophisticated as you would hope they would be.
Right.
Again, another well PC statement. But anyway, you go through that whole process, and at the end of you take your income minus your expenses, and do you have any money left over? And now you want to do a loan. Well, how much is the loan payment? Do you have enough money to pay the loan? Hopefully, yes, and with some buffer. And then is there any money left over for me or the investors if I'm having investors invest with me? That's literally how we do it. Now, that's a grossly simplified version of what we teach in our courses, but that's what you have to do. So what's going to happen is, let me ask you a question. How many times have you seen people try to go into this space, but they're not confident with what their numbers are?
That's me. You are you are looking at that person.
Okay, and that happens. That happens because what you have to do is just for a few times, you don't have to do this every time, but you have to get to know the business that you're about to buy. How much is pest control going to be? Well, we show you how to figure that out. How much is landscaping going to be? We show you how to figure that out. How much is your real estate taxes going to be? How much is your insurance going to be?
Taxes.
We show you how to figure all those numbers out. So what happens, you're going to find that I can show you how to figure out every single number in this business, except for two: unit turn costs and repairs and maintenance. Because you just don't know what's going to break next. But I can give you guidelines that over the long run, you'll probably be safe with a certain number there as a placeholder, right? Because again, you don't know how many people are going to move out in a particular year. You don't know which air conditioner is going to break. I mean, you just can't ever figure that out. So you have to use estimates there. But every one of those numbers I can help you figure out. And then guess what happens to your confidence when you know? You're like, no, I know what pest control costs because I know. I know what landscaping costs because I know what taxes are going to be because I know. And then when you have the conversation with the broker, they're like, oh, wait, they know what they're doing. Interesting. And you know what you're doing. Your confidence level just goes through the roof. And then you can make good decisions, because that's where I see people get tripped up, right? Either they just go forward, just hoping and praying that their high level 30-foot analysis is right, or they're like, I know I don't really know, and I am not willing to risk all my money not knowing. So they stop dead in their tracks and they never buy a property.
Well, that's
the problem I'm trying to solve for people.
That's exactly what happened with this mobile home park. Is there were so many unknowns and we couldn't get answers on them. We weren't sure about this and that. And we were just blindly walking into this because someone somewhere said, rent mobile or buy mobile home parks. Don't buy the mobile homes, get the mobile home parks, do the lot rents, all that stuff. And so we're like, okay, we investigate. But exactly is that same situation we were in with my accountant husband, who was like, we both were going, we couldn't be confident with that purchase. So you have a course, and it's a really creative website, by the way. So it's multifamilyunderwriting.com. I mean,
no, underwriting, a multifamily underwriting course.com.
Course.com. Okay. That is very creative. You would expect
an accountant to come up with such an original name, multifamilyunderwritingcourse.com. And that's all you have to remember.
What all does that entail?
Yeah. So, it gives you me teaching you how to do all the things that I just talked about. And there's a whole bunch we haven't even talked about yet that's in there.
Oh, yeah.
And you get the same spreadsheet. This is the spreadsheet scare the hell out of people. It just does. We use the exact same spreadsheet in our business every single day. We have a deal screener. That's our 30,000 foot view that we kind of use as a sort of a pre-screener to say, does this deal make sense or not? And then if it does, then we go to what's called our full analyzer, and the exact same spreadsheet, right? And so you get that. We also teach you how to do what we call a rent stack. It's a whole stuff. You got to get familiar with the competitive market. What's it like out there when you own this property? Are you going to be able to get the rent you thought? We'll show you how to do all that, but you get the format so you know exactly what to look at, because that's critical, right? There's no more guessing. You're like, do I care that there's washer dryers in the units? Well, maybe not, right? It depends. Do I care that there's water, sewer included in the rent? Maybe not, right? So I help you get through all that. So you get that format. But here's what I think is really important. Anybody can sell you a course and say, good luck. Good luck, Jen. All right. Thanks for your money. Appreciate it. But here's where I really want people to figure this business out, because it had such a massive impact on my life. I mean, I stopped being an accountant because of it. Right. And I know that if I can help you understand, your life will be changed forever. And that as I've grown older now, earlier on, it used to just be about me. Now I really get a lot of satisfaction knowing, oh my God, I helped Jen get over that hump and figure this out. I just changed her life. And that makes me feel really, really good because I really do have a different purpose in life. So what I've done is I said, all right, you can't just shove the course down their throat and wish them the best of luck. That's not fair. That doesn't even seem right.
Right.
So we meet with you every Thursday at noon, and I'm there. And okay, let's talk about you have a problem. You have the seller's numbers. They're like, Ken, help me with this. I don't understand this. Well, let's go through it together. And I'm there to help you through the process all the way. It just depends on where you're at in the process as to what you need. But what's important is that we've been doing this for 25 years. I haven't seen everything, but I've seen a lot, right? So I can help you certainly get through those numbers with certainty. And at the end of the day, you're like, Ken, you're right. This deal does make sense, or no, this deal doesn't make sense.
That's awesome.
And I think it's that weekly time. It's an hour we allot. I think it's critical, though.
Absolutely.
Because I think it makes sure that you get it done, right? It makes sure that you understand it and you get what you wanted out of the course. That's what matters to me.
And I got to also give you a shout out because it is a one-time fee and they get access to you on Thursdays at 12 noon for as long as.
Yeah, it's not infinite amount of time. I think we put a time limit. I don't remember what it was, but It's like at least 3 to 6 months. I don't remember what that was now, but it's enough time that you're going to understand what's going on. And the reality of it is, as we develop relationships with you, I would love for you to find a deal for me in your hometown that you and I could do together. See, because now I've gotten to know you. I understand you're smart. You know what you're doing. You do the work. Like, I have a lot of respect for you. And would I partner with you? Absolutely. So now together, I don't want to dangle this carrot, right? But this is beneficial to us as well, because now I've gotten an opportunity to potentially do a deal in your hometown with you. If you so want to do that, you take time to develop these relationships, but that is a potential. And we hope that, we want to grow just like everybody else does. And that's a very good way for us to do that.
And that leads us right into KRI Partners, where I work with students across the country. And a lot of times they come into a bucket of cash and they're like, I'm going to go flip houses now. And then they do an education program. They go through it and they're like, oh, I really don't want to get my fingernails dirty. So they want to, at least they get that education, and that's good. It makes them a better investor. But you also provide a service for accredited investors, for the most part, to invest in your company, and you do all the work, and it's literally just passive income coming in. Owning the 12 unit like I'm doing is absolutely not passive, but taking, say, thanks for laughing at me.
It's not passive. I agree.
So say they have $100,000, they're an accredited investor. They can simply invest that with you and watch the mailbox money coming in, correct?
Yes, that's exactly right. Yep.
So how does one become accredited?
Yeah, good question. So the SEC has rules that you have to meet. They set the rules, not me. All you have to do is have annual income of $200,000 a year, or $300,000 if you're going to include your spouse, or a net worth of $1 million exclusive of your home. Those are the two. You have to meet one of those two requirements. So how you get there is entirely up to you. Some people do it on income, some people do it on net worth. It just depends. But as long as you meet one of those two criteria, and we have to go through some process of verification, because you just can't call me and say, hey, Ken, I'm accredited. Take my word for it. The SEC won't let us do that. They'll come in and audit our books and say, wait a minute, you let Jen in, but you don't have any idea if she really is accredited, right? So I have to get either a letter from a CPA or there's a number of ways. I don't want to get into all those details, but there's a number of ways for us to get verification, just so that we have it in our file. So when the SEC comes knocking on our door and audits us, we can show them, nope, she is. Here's the letter from the CPA, or here's her tax return, or whatever it is. And they're like, okay, you're good. Ken, you did everything the way you were supposed to do it. So
for the listeners out there where they are in that boat, where they did come into a bucket of cash and they are accredited, how do they find you to invest with your company?
Yeah, so it's kripartners.com/invest, kripartners.com/invest. And what that's going to do, it's going to take you to our information page. It's going to have a webinar from me that talk to you in detail about what we do, how we do it, why we do it, all that kind of stuff. It's going to show you our entire track record, which was verified by Verivest. So 25 years of deals, and you can see the actual returns, and somebody else verified those. then I think there's, of course, all the regular documents you need to look at. In our world, there's a private placement memorandum. We refer to it as a PPM. That's just basically a business summary, and it lays out all the risks so that you understand that this is a possibility in the real estate world that you could lose money. And then the operating agreement, which is basically the agreement that governs our relationship. That's really the important one. Nobody likes to read it, but it is the important one. And then you get at the bottom of the page, it was really important to me that people understand how we do what we do, because people say, well, what is value add investing? What does that mean? And so we did about a 20-minute video on a deal we did in Jacksonville called Bell Reef Club of Apartments. And it was 104 units. It was about an $850,000 renovation. And so I took you through, why did I buy it? What did it look like when I bought it? What was I thinking? And then we have a lot of before and afters. I take you through the whole renovation process, all the way to, this is what it looked like when we were done. This is how we sold it. This is how much money we made. This is how much our investors made. I think on that deal, our investor return was a 22% annual return.
Wow.
And we held it for 3.5 years. So if they gave us $100,000, they got back about 175.
That is some great investing.
Really educational stuff, so that you'd be like, wow, okay, now I get it. I understand what KRI does. Because again, I want you to know what you're investing in.
Absolutely. And I went through your website and I really like how it's set up, and all the numbers are spelled out for potential investment opportunities. Mm-hmm. And you do a great job on that. Again, another reason why we have you on the show here, because it was just so well said and dumbed down for people like myself. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So thank you for that. And I want to wrap up this first part of the podcast here by asking an important question. Do you see multifamily investment opportunities like dwindling anytime soon in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I don't. I think right now I could always make a reason to invest in multifamily, but if you understand why I do multifamily, I'm a pretty risk averse person. I can't figure out a way to make the multifamily story go away. Everybody needs a place to live, right?
Right.
Now, I can make an argument for office having problems, medical having problems, retail having problems, self-storage, but I can't figure out how to make multifamily go away. So now, when I take that asset class and I buy in the right locations where demand for housing exceeds the supply for housing, what happens if you go back to your economics class, which everybody hated, but it's actually important. If you have more people that want your product than is available, the price probably is going to go up.
Right.
And that's what we're in the business for. So as long as you buy in growing areas, I call it a good apartment communities in growing areas and good neighborhoods, you're going to have that demand supply imbalance. And then imagine you put a value add on top of that. So you already got the wind to your back because you're in a growing area. And now you added value. I mean, our returns are insane because of those things stacked up. Do I see that changing? No. I mean, if I can buy a property now with interest rates where they are now and with insurance costs as high as they are now, and imagine, I can't underwrite this because I'm not brave enough to build this into my underwriting, but imagine if interest rates came down a little. Imagine if insurance rates came down a little. What's going to happen? It's going to go right to your bottom line. And more money for you. That's exactly right. So we are working like dogs to find deals right now. Problem is, a lot of people don't want to sell unless they are kind of in a situation where they have to sell. Right. And that's all right, because our fund is here. We pre-raise the money. So if I come to you and say, I'm going to buy your property, we've already got the money raised. We're going to buy your property, right? As a seller, you're confident that these guys, we can get you under contract and get you closed.
Ken, that was a great way to wrap up this first part of the podcast. I love that. I got my teeth cleaned yesterday. My dentist, while in my mouth, he's like, so what are you up to? I'm like, I'm still buying properties. And he's like, even with the interest rates right now? I'm like, because of the interest rates right now, because when they come back down, it's going to be more money in my pocket. So thank you for that. And I was like, punching in the air when you were saying it. It was awesome. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. So the second part of the podcast is what makes Ken a badass. And I use the acronym BADASS. And the first letter is B for book. What's a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
Yeah, I'm reading constantly. Probably 10X rule. Probably one. Grant Cardone, 10X rule. I just believe you've got to just go full speed ahead on anything you do, because you just have to. Let's go with that one. I could go on, but there's a whole bunch out there. But that one is the first one that comes to mind. Yes,
that is a read that you have to revisit multiple times, because and you get something different out of it every single time. So great one right there. All right, the first A in badass is for advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
That I've ever received. I'll phrase it the way this is tough stuff. But Ken, you need to get out of your own way, right? And the reason you need to get out of your own way is, and I've learned this now that I've been, I'm 58 years old. I've been doing this for a long time. I get the opportunity to meet with some 25, 26, 27, 28-year-olds who are out of their own way. These guys are light years beyond where I was at that age. And the only reason was your brain gets in your way. You don't even imagine, like if I were to tell you were to tell me 25 years ago that I've raised $35-40 million in capital and invested it in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of units, I would have said, you're crazy. But see, I'd have told you you're crazy because I put that limit on myself. We've blown those away, and you realize, Jesus, I can do this just like the next guy or gal.
Yes.
That's it. You got to get out of your own way, man. And the faster you do it, the better off you're going to be.
Great advice. Thank you for sharing that one. All right. The D in badass is for drive. What drives you to be successful besides 3 a.m. feeding times with the daughter? What drives you to be successful?
Yeah. Early on, it was about that, spending time with my family, and it is still, but now my drive is as much about having an impact on other people. Right. Because when you get to the back nine in life, right, you want people aren't, oh, yeah, so Ken made a lot of money. OK, that's great. But in the back nine, you want people to realize Ken actually helped a lot of people. And that matters. That's my drive now.
That does.
Because I feel like we really can help a lot of people.
Absolutely. And you get into a position exactly like you said, where, money, that passive income starting to flow your way. And what do I do with my time now? And because we were so driven in this real estate industry, what you do is you give back. So very, very nice. All right. The second A in badass is for aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what's a goal you are currently working on?
Yeah, we're going toward $2 billion in assets under management. Currently under management. Oof. We've done $2 billion in deals over my lifetime, but I want $2 billion on the balance sheet.
I love it. Very nice. All right. The first S in badass is for systems. This is a big question. So what systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
Oh my God, our entire business is built on systems, right? If you think about a company as you're building it, back when I had 1 or 2 properties, I could hang out and see each new move in and everything else. I can't do that anymore. I haven't been doing that in years. So the entire company is built on a whole myriad of systems and processes and people that are implementing those systems. So, it's all of those systems. If I were to look now internally at my personal system that helps me move forward, it's the system that allows me to focus every day on, okay, Ken, where am I going? Remind myself, where am I going now? Because what happens as you get up every day, the phone starts ringing, the emails come in, people start calling you, they walk into your office, all of a sudden the day's over and you're like, I didn't do anything that I wanted to move myself forward.
Right.
So I try to look at that every day. That's my system that brings me back to stay focused, Ken. Don't forget about these shiny objects. All right. No more shiny objects. Stay focused on the things that matter.
Very well said. All right. The final S and final letter in badass is for success. What does success mean to you?
Wow. It's probably a lot of the things that we just talked about. One, to have the time to spend with my family, to be able to teach my kids and show them by example, hey guys, if you do the right things, you're in this world, it's unfortunate, but you need to have enough money to make money, not something that controls your life anymore. That's critical. And so that is the first measure of success. The second level of measure of success is, and I've already talked about it, it's my ability to now help other people get to that same level, because your life completely changes when you don't wake up every day hoping that you can figure out how to pay the electric bill, right? I'm just telling you. I've been there. I very early on, my came from a very, very humble beginning. Been there, done that, know what it feels like. And that's not a concern anymore. Now I'm much more focused on those other things. So really kind of two measures, but I want to get people to that level of success that they no longer have to worry about those things.
And I think you made a really good point, because a lot of times people say, well, look at the price for your course, for example, which, by the way, is very affordable. And they will say, oh, that's just too much money. I can figure this out on my own. But you have to look at where you are now and then where you could be a year from now. And is that investment in yourself worth it? Do you want to be in the same place a year from now? Or do you want to bite the bullet, pay the money for the course, and then change your life and be so much further a year from now? So a lot of people, just like you said, you got to get yourself out of the way. What did you say? Get out.
You got to get out of your own way.
Your own way. So
yes, you have to get out of your own way.
I think that's so
important. And that investment in yourself. I mean, think about it. If you've gone to college, you've already invested in yourself, right? And it's, the stuff when you go to try to learn this business, whether you buy my course or someone else's, I think ours is a lot better, by the way. I just have to say that. But it's focused on getting you very specifically to a point, right? When you took biology in college, or algebra, I mean, at the end, when you were done, you weren't anywhere, right? You just learned something. And I'm not saying you didn't need it, right? I'm just saying at the end of the day, it doesn't make you able to do something you weren't able to do before, right? It doesn't change you. It doesn't transform you. And I'm here to tell you, those 3 deals, $500,000, and these are $1,997. So, I mean, $500,000 completely changed my life. I will tell you now, there's no reason why on your first deal you can't make $1 million. If you make $1 million, your life is different. You can't tell me it's not, unless you're already wealthy. It's going to change everything about how you think and everything else. And so this business has the ability to do that for people. That's why people come to it. It's just they get trapped because they're always looking for shortcuts. They're always looking for, I want to do it and have it happen immediately. This business it's not a get rich quick thing, right? It's I call it, and I can't say for sure, but it's a get rich with more certainty plan, right? It will, if you do this and you do this religiously, there is a much higher chance that you remember that first measure of success I had, you're going to get there relatively quickly. So you got to invest in yourself. You got to just learn what it takes to get there. That's why I'm doing this, because I want to help people get there. And I can't do it for free, because then what happens to me is I get a lot of people, everybody does stuff for free, but the people that actually do it, you get like 0.25% of the people that do free stuff actually do something with it.
Yep.
And now I'm spending a lot of time now not really helping anyone. And that's not cool, because I really want to help people get to where they want to go.
Absolutely. And Ken, what a great way to wrap up this podcast. It has been such a pleasure having you on here. One more time, how can the listeners find you?
Sure. KRIpartners.com/invest. That's if you want to invest. I know all the marketers tell you not to give you 2 things to do, but if you want to learn multifamily real estate, go to that multifamilyunderwritingcourse.com. Either way, you're going to get to me, and we're going to help you figure out how to make the most out of this real estate business for you.
Well, I'm definitely going to be checking it out. Ken, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And that is all. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.